Hello, this is Ted Goldsborough of the Living History Program, and today we're having our second part of talking to Chief Tom Hayden of the Merion Fire Company, which is located in Ardmore on Greenfield Avenue. Tom, we left off in our last segment talking about a ladder truck in a parade, and on that ladder truck was a dog, and I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about dogs and fire companies.
Wow, that's an exciting picture. That's the first time I've seen that in a long time. That was our dog, Smokey, and our old-time firefighter, Lester Trunk. And Lester would take care of the dog. We all would take care of it, but the dog particularly loved Lester. Smokey was in our station probably for 15 years. And was a great pet to everybody. He was a wonderful dog.
Thanks for sharing that. We had mentioned earlier, you had mentioned that the Merion Fire Company, I guess, helped get started, the Gladwin?
Yeah, in the mid-30s that the Merion Fire Company had a Merion Fire Company Division Number 2, which was the Gladwin branch of the Merion Fire Company. And there was a service station located at Youngsford and Conshohocken State owned by Lawheads. It was Lawhead Service Station, I believe. And they took a garage in the back and they made it that original firehouse. John Lawhead ended up being the a paid man at Gladwin for many, many years and was an integral part of the forming of the Gladwin Fire Company. Gladwin Fire Company formed their own charter and took over as their own entity in 1944, but prior to that they were a substation of Ardmore.
Okay. I guess some of the firemen were from Gladwin, but some were from Ardmore?
Yes, I think there was some crossover back in that day. I think I had read that some of them worked on some of the estates over there. So if they were, some of them were cross members. But Gladwin had their own officers back then, their chief and their deputy, whatnot.
This is from a 50th anniversary booklet in 1940, I guess, or 41, and it lists, I just mentioned named Dr. Barker. He was a member of the the Lower Township Commissioners, and Althouse had a fuel oil and coal company, and some old-time Gladwin names that are in here, Titlow and whatever.
Yeah, I know some of those names. I actually knew Warren Allhouse, who was an engineer there. He was an older gentleman that was over there. And then John Keneally is, his son's a fireman today, but he was one of the original chiefs of the Gladwin Fire Company, I believe. Yep.
And I think he worked for the township for the trees division, Keneally.
I don't know.
Because out at Ashbridge, I think they give him credit for planting a whole bunch of different trees.
Neat.
Okay. And there's Frankenfield Funeral Home.
Oh, great. Yep.
Sponsors
Sponsored the book, yep.
Yeah.
And, very involved all the way back to the beginning.
And there's Barker. Okay, now we get into one of the worst fires in Ardmore history, and that was the Autocar in the summer. It was a hot day, I think, in July.
Yeah, it was July 31st, 1956. And the Autocar plant was actually shut down. And there was a demolition company in there that was actually cutting out some pipes in the basement with a torch. And I guess the torch got into some of the oil-soaked floors, and the fire was off to the races and spread from building to building to building. And very difficult to fight because it was a railroad on one side that kind of divided it. And then as the fire progressed and got worse, chimneys were falling and walls were falling. And it was really the efforts of the firefighters that saved the rest of the town. Everybody came together to fight that fire. They initially were on location for 24 hours to fight the firefight.
In the article, which is from the defunct Philadelphia Evening Bulletin, they're mentioning that Philadelphia was called in and Philadelphia police came to help.
Correct, yep. There was mutual aid and they requested Philadelphia. It was Philadelphia sent all their recruits out to that call. So if they had a class of 60 people, they loaded them all on the trucks and sent the recruits out. So that was some of the Philadelphia firemen's first fire, was to fight a fire in Ardmore.
I meant to ask you when we were looking at fire engines, why in the old days did they have open cabs and we don't today? Why was that?
Well, I believe that the thought process was that they could see better. They could stand up and, if the truck was backing up and have better sight. As we got more modern, it was nice to have a cab over your head when you were out in the rain and the snow, because it became very difficult. Even some of your levers and whatnot would have ice and snow on them. I still came from the era of the open cab trucks, and they were a bit of a challenge, although fun to ride on.
Do firemen, in the old days, firemen used to hang on to the back of the, we don't do that anymore?
No, we don't do that anymore for a lot of reasons, but really it's safety. Everything's about safety with our modern firefighters. When our trucks go out, or any of our trucks go out in Lower Merion, that everybody is seated in a seat with a seat belt on, and there's buzzers in the seat. The driver would know that if somebody doesn't have their seat belt on. Some of our fire trucks even have side airbags. So they really have come a long way, in the last 20 years.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you were in the midst of Autocar, and there was a long relationship,
Yes.
50 some years. The Autocar plant was originally on Lancaster Avenue, but then it extended down Greenfield Avenue. And we have newspaper articles back in the 40s that as many as 2,000 people a day worked at the Autocar plant. So it was a big plant. They made cars and trucks, cars until 1912, and then trucks until 1954 when they were bought by the White Motor Car Company. One thing that I didn't understand, the Autocar truck company just built the chassis, the four wheels, the engine, steering wheel, but then the owner took that to a body, more like a fireplace, and they made a fire engine out of it.
Even today, some of the fire apparatus that we get, the pumps are purchased separately, and then they're built with a fire company manufacturer. The real neat thing about this is most of our members of our fire company were Autocar employees or descendants of them at the time. So they were building their own trucks for our own firehouse here in Ardmore. They also provided firemen during the day to man our apparatus. There was a period of time where the Autocar had their own fire truck, and they would assist in Ardmore, the Autocar Fire Department. But the pride in our own members building their own fire trucks, the quality just was unbelievable of the Autocars that came out of the Ardmore plant and backed into the Ardmore firehouse.
And then, well, I guess I'm biased, but it's a handsome machine.
It is a beautiful truck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me about. I never heard of the Hall of Flame.
Oh,
Tell
okay.
me what that is.
Yeah, the Hall of Flame is a museum in Phoenix, Arizona, and our Autocar trucks were really a work of art. And we had one, a 1952. It was called a fog unit that was a little bit different than the average fire truck. It without really high pressure hose streams, and for a number of years, it was thought that high pressure, low gallonage fog did a good job on the fires of that era. We didn't have all the plastics back then. So when we sold that truck in 1977, it was kind of sought after. It was a collector's item. It ended up in this museum, the Hall of Flame in Phoenix, Arizona, on display. So right out of Ardmore into a museum, and I believe it's still there today. I had been there a couple times over the years to see it, but it was a real neat truck.
Now this firehouse is different from that one where they took the tower down, and it's different from the one we see today. How long did this company last, this building last?
That renovation was good for about 30 years, and that was the final renovation. That firehouse there is the one that would not support the apparatus and had to be torn down in order to build the firehouse that we see existing today.
So it didn't last too long in the life of a building.
No, probably because of the three other renovations to the back of the building.
Okay.
So there was a shell of an old building underneath that more modern looking building.
Torn the whole thing down and started over.
They did what they could do at the time. Yep.
One of the reasons I like this shot is because we have 3 Autocar fire trucks here, and the other's an American LaFrance, the ladder truck.
Correct. We have a 52 American LaFrance, we have a 41 Autocar, we have a 58 Autocar, and we have a 52 Autocar. So very, very, very neat.
Now it's time for us to take a break here, and we'll be back after we're doing. This is Ted Goldsborough, Living History, with Chief Hayden of the Merion Fire Company.